Yo, what's up? Nash here. Today we're talking about plot structure. So there's this big debate out in Hollywood. Should I have structure to my movie? There's the kind of hippie side, do what you want, man, do what feels good. And then there's the other side that's a little more rigid, that's like, you need to have this, the inciting incident and this and this. And it makes it tough for people like me and you that are beginning filmmakers and don't really know where to start. So, do you need structure for your movie? Personally, I believe that you do, because the world around us is structured, it's orderly, it has purpose to it, and our job as filmmakers and artists is to reflect the world around us to connect with the human condition. And if the world is structured, then our story should be structured. Plus, it just helps us engage with the audience a little bit better, and people will resonate with it. It makes for an overall better film. So what do I mean by movie structure? Well, if you take a look at the Blake Snyder beat sheet, you can just do like a Google search. I'll leave a link in the description below as well if you want to check it out. But it's basically a template for filmmakers to figure out where to put different elements of a story together to make a overall comprehensive story. Now, if what I'm talking about sounds completely foreign, you're like, dude, what are you talking about? You might want to go ahead and check out this video that I did a little bit earlier that talks about components of story, that explains to you a little more what I'm talking about so that you won't be totally confused. So, the extent that you use your Blake Snyder beat sheet obviously depends on the film, the genre, and mostly the length of the film. You're gonna be able to jam a lot more story into a 2-hour feature film than you will into a 2-minute short film because, time. So in order to illustrate a little bit better what I'm talking about with structure, I'm going to be using a film by one of my favorite short film writers of all time. His name is Seth Worley, and he is excellent. If you haven't already heard of him, I'm going to be using one of his newest short films called Real Gone. You can check it out right here if you haven't already seen it. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go see it because I'm going to spoil it for you, and you don't want to have this one spoiled because it's pretty good. So let's go ahead and jump into exactly what we're talking about with the story structure, shall we? So the first thing you need to know about story structure is you need to have a setup. We need to know where the character lives, what he's doing, what he wants, what he likes, what he doesn't like, and we do that through the setup. Now, if you check out the Real Gone short film, we start with this scene where he's sort of on the beach in this otherworldly type atmosphere, doesn't really know what he's doing, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and there's paramedics around him, his face is all bloodied, he's like, what the heck is going on right now? And that is what's considered, it's a little bit of a setup, but it's mostly a hook. A hook is basically a literary element that writers use to literally, like a fish, hook their audience and get them engaged in the film and want to watch the rest of it. If you see a guy wake up out of the middle of nowhere, paramedics around, bloodied face, and he was just at the beach, you're gonna be like, what the heck is going on? And you're probably gonna wanna watch a little bit more. So that's our hook, but a little bit of a setup because it comes back around at the end. So our real setup happens right after the title slide when we see him wake up, we see him take a shower, he goes to work, he comes home, he works at this Loans place that's gross and grungy and dirty, and then he sits down at the table and eats chips. Chips for dinner. Quite the dinner. So, what do we know immediately about this guy in 30 seconds? We know that he is lonely. We know that he is probably depressed. He hates his job. He hates his life. And he wants something better. So, with this in mind, that leads us into our inciting incident. Basically, the catalyst that forces our hero to go do something different with his life. And in this case, the catalyst is this. The end. Pretty dark. So he sees, first of all, these visions of possibly afterlife, and then he sees the end, and then he gets to thinking, do I really have any purpose of living? And he obviously decides not. This breaks us into act number 2, which, if you know anything about components of story, this is where the meat of our story happens. This is where Hercules goes out and defeats all the Titans and Hades gets super mad. This is where the gladiator goes out and defeats all these other gladiators and makes it to the Colosseum. This is where in Real Gone, ironically enough, our main character tries to kill himself and can't. But he tries again. And again. But he fails every single time. And it's weird because we want to root for this guy to kill himself. And we know that it's weird because, you know, obviously you never want to root for someone to kill themselves because it's bad and it's terrible. Suicide is terrible. But we're rooting for this guy to be able to kill himself because it's his goal and he wants to, because he wants to get out of his gross life. So this leads us to this. This is what's considered the dark night of the soul, or the character's lowest point in their life. It's when he's striving after his goal. He wants to commit suicide so badly, but he can't. He fails every single time, and he is fed up with it, and it is his last chance. It's his last ditch effort to kill himself. So he pulls out the revolver, puts it to his head, and then what happens? The fire alarm goes off, and he's like, oh. But instead of staying in this burning building, he decides to walk out with his crutches and all, and then he hears some screaming. He's like, what is that? Then he realizes he has two choices. He can either save this person or he can walk away. But if he saves this person, then it's kind of a win-win situation because option one, he goes in, saves the person, or option two, he dies in the burning building, which he achieves his goal either way. So he decides to run in this burning building straight on, take on his fears, take on his goal. If he does it, he does it. If he doesn't, he dies trying, which is good for him. And that's what is considered your break into 3, when the character has no other option but to do it. So character runs in, grabs the girl, runs out, saves her, and yay, everything's good, right? Clap, woo! Curtains fall. Resolution. There's no loose ends to tie up. This guy kind of realized that, wait, there is something worth living because I just saved this girl and, you know, this is cool and all. But then I don't think there's any more loose ends to tie up. So our character gets hit by the truck, and now we realize, hey, he's in heaven, and he got the best of both worlds, and it's good for everyone. The girl got saved, he went to heaven. Everything is great and dandy and good. Yeah! So hopefully you got a lot of value out of this video, guys. If you want, you can leave a comment below. Let me know what you learned. Love hearing from you guys. Even if you have a question, I can answer questions as well, or ideas for future videos. Whatever. Also, if you'd be so kind as hitting the subscribe button, that would help me out a lot. Really helps support me in making these videos for you guys, and I love making these videos. Lastly, you can check me out on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all in the description below. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of this video. Peace.